Hi you guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Charlotte. Thanks for being here with me today. Today we have a review of KAYALI's latest release, Vanilla Royale Sugared Patchouli 64, which, if you didn't already know, has elicited some of the most polarizing reviews and feelings out there. Now, I have my thoughts and my own feelings, and I can't wait to share them with you. But before that, please let me know down below if you've smelled this fragrance, what your thoughts are on it. If you love it, you hate it, whatever your feelings are, drop them down below. Thank you for giving me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you would like to see some more videos from me in the future, and let's get into it. So I will start off by saying that I was quite ambivalent about this fragrance when I saw it being released. I do really like KAYALI Vanilla 28, and unlike a lot of people, I wasn't under the impression that this was going to be a more intense version of Vanilla 28, because when I took a look at the notes, I could tell this was an entirely different fragrance. That said, there is a KAYALI Vanilla DNA in this fragrance, and I will get into that. So I bought the travel spray from Sephora with my own money, so not sponsored or gifted or anything like that. And yeah, I didn't buy it as soon as it was released. I waited a couple days, and then I saw how hyped up it was and how polarizing the reviews were, that I was like, okay, let's try it out. And I was surprised. I will tell you how I was surprised at the end. But let me give you my thoughts and my journey with this fragrance. So when I first tried this, it arrived very cold, late at night, which is not very characteristic of Sephora deliveries to arrive late at night. I ripped open my package. It was freezing cold still. And I know usually in my experience, it's better to let a fragrance sit overnight, get back to room temperature and all that, because a lot of times when I first spray them, when they're still cold, whatever I smell, that's not what I smell the next day. I don't know if it's because of the delivery, all the shaking up, the weather change, all of that, but there is a difference. I've experienced it enough to notice that there is a difference. But my first initial reaction when I sprayed it on that night was right away I thought of Tiger Balm. Yes, Tiger Balm. So very mentholated and camphor and menthol. And I don't quite get that anymore. I will elaborate on that, but that Tiger Balm quality is not off-putting to me personally. I actually kind of have a love for that smell. I don't know if I want to smell like it, like as a perfume, but the smell is not off-putting in itself to me. I enjoy that scent. But yeah, that was interesting. That was my first reaction when I first smelled it in the opening, was Tiger Balm. Now, a few seconds after that Tiger Balm boom shock, the leather and oud came out. And this part I found quite intense. It was quite funky in the combo. It really reminded me of a raw leather, similar to like this raw leather from like this book cover I have here. Yeah, it smells very animalic, a little bit funky. So if you can think of that, this kind of like more, yeah, like this more like raw leather smell. It was the leather and the oud mixed together that gave it a bit of an animalic edge to it that I was a little bit surprised by. I was like, wow, that's daring for KAYALI a little bit. And I knew right away, I was like, okay, that's not gonna be for everyone. But all of this slightly intense Tiger Balm, oud, leather, animalicness is drenched in sweetness. So it is still very, very sweet. After a couple of minutes, this slightly stinky oud leather combo does dissipate. It stays there, but it's a lot smoother. It mellows out. It's a lot more enjoyable and tolerable to me. And this is when I get a warm spiciness, and it's also when I started smelling the burnt sugar note, or like the brown sugar Vanilla 28 DNA, with the addition of a lot of patchouli. The booziness was present, but it was pretty mellow, nothing too noticeable. And at this point, I didn't really understand the emphasis on the booze, to be honest. There was some smokiness in the background that kind of got amplified as time went on, and I really enjoyed this smokiness. I don't always enjoy smokiness, but in this fragrance, I really enjoyed it. It also got very spicy on the skin. It got spicier and spicier to the point where my nose actually started to run. But it didn't bother me. Other than that, I actually really enjoyed the spiciness, but it did like make my nose run, which the fragrances that do that are very rare. There are some fragrances, like there's MANCERA Oud Vanille has a black pepper note in there that literally makes my nose run, even more so than this fragrance. It really feels like I'm putting my nose up to black pepper. So it makes my nose run. This did that a little bit. Now, on my second wear test and beyond, I did not get that tiger bomb. Instead, I got that very, very strong shot of rum, which I had been hearing about, the rum. Now I get it. Now I get it. I don't know what happened on that first night, but like I said, I did not get the rum. I just got that tiger bomb. But now I get the rum. And I'm not a boozy fragrance kind of person, just gonna say that. So this is not my favorite part of the fragrance. But if you like a boozy fragrance, this is very boozy. If you don't like a boozy fragrance, this is very boozy. So beware. And it's not just boozy, it's very, very like obviously golden rum. It really does smell like golden rum. The patchouli in here is there. It's quite strong. I do enjoy it though. It is a kind of green, earthy patchouli. So I do get some earthiness in this fragrance. I enjoy it in this fragrance though, totally. It's very smooth, it's well blended, it's very well balanced with the spiciness, the woodiness, the sweetness, the vanilla. So I enjoy the patchouli in here, but in no way is this suitable for someone who can't stand patchouli. So if you can't stand patchouli, no, you have to at least be open to liking some patchoulis to enjoy this fragrance and to enjoy the patchouli in this fragrance. So when I look at the notes in this fragrance, the fragrance makes sense to me. What I'm smelling is what I'm seeing in the notes. It does make sense to me. I think some people felt led on too by the crème brûlée note, but to me, right off the get-go, when I looked at all the notes, I was like, okay, crème brûlée is going to be an interpretation of the burnt sugar note and a creamy vanilla. And that's what I get. So while it's not gourmand per se, it has a gourmand edge to it, but it's not a literal gourmand fragrance by any means. And to be honest, I tend to prefer that. I don't like a literal smell like a snack fragrance. It just has enough of that edible gourmand quality to make it a little bit yummy. You know what I mean? But it's not a literal gourmand fragrance by any means. The longevity on this, I will say, is quite good. I did get about 6 hours on my skin, which is probably the longest lasting fragrance that I have tried from KAYALI, and I have 8 or 9 of their fragrances. I have 3 full-size bottles and the rest in minis, but yeah, I have 8 or 9 KAYALI fragrances, and I think this one is the longest lasting one. They all tend to last for me between 3 to 4, maybe 5 hours for some. This one lasted a good 6 hours on my skin. The projection is not insane, it's quite moderate. The sillage, however, is very nice. You will get wafts throughout the day. You do leave a nice trail behind you. People will smell you in that way. And I will say though, it's very polarizing, not just polarizing as a scent as a whole, it's polarizing in the development. This fragrance develops and changes throughout the wear, and you might really prefer certain aspects of the fragrance. I would say most people prefer the dry down. I wore this, one time I wore this, and right away my boyfriend walked in right after I spritzed it on, and he was like, ooh, I don't like that. And he very rarely, first of all, comments on my fragrance, usually, unless he really likes it. And second of all, he very rarely like dislikes a fragrance I'm wearing. So I was like, interesting, have to note that. And then a couple hours later, he's like, oh, I really like what you're wearing. And I asked him, are you sure you really like? He's like, yeah, it smells really good. And I was like, it's the same fragrance from before. He didn't understand that. I had to explain to him, it's the same fragrance as the one that you thought didn't smell good. So the opening is quite different or can rub people the wrong way. And then the dry down can be something entirely different with this fragrance. And for my personal taste, I do prefer the dry down, but I am not opposed to the opening, and I find it actually quite interesting, and I can appreciate the development of this fragrance. But I do think it's quite daring for KAYALI. I mean, I think KAYALI is a fragrance brand that, you know, is kind of after a sort of melding of two worlds, Middle Eastern fragrances and more Western fragrances. So for people who are used to Middle Eastern fragrances, I don't think this is going to be like world shattering. This is not going to be groundbreaking, and it's not going to be that polarizing either. I think it's going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, there's a little bit of oud in there. There's some leather. It's a little bit darker. It's a little bit of a stronger, more femme fatale sort of fragrance. But it's not going to be like, oh my goodness, that is so strong. You know, it's just not. But if you're used to only designer, mainstream, Western fragrances, this might be a bit much for you. And I think that that is also what's at the root of a lot of the polarizing reviews of this fragrance, because the rest of KAYALI's fragrances, they tread a little bit more carefully in the Middle Eastern vibe. This one goes there a little bit more. It's very interesting. It's a lot more complex than a lot of their other fragrances. And I think if you're someone who was really underwhelmed by Vanilla 28, because I do think that Vanilla 28, while it has a huge following and huge fan base, there are some people who find it very quote unquote basic and don't get the hype and find it too boring. If you are that kind of person, if you're that person, you definitely should try this one out. This might be more interesting to you. This is a perfect cold weather fragrance, perfect for the holiday season. It's bold, it's sexy, and it's confident. So this is not for someone who wants to smell like demure or anything like that. And to give you an idea, while I haven't smelled any other fragrance that smells quite like this fragrance, it did make me think of, in terms of vibes of like when I would wear it, how I would wear it, and the feeling it gives me of, yeah, when I wear it, is Shaghaf Oud by Swiss Arabian. Now, like I said, again, not at all the same fragrance. They smell very different. But in terms of the vibe, these are both very bold, dark, femme fatale fragrances, and they're not for everyone. So yeah, they don't smell at all the same. Shaghaf Oud, for one, is not a boozy fragrance. It has a much stronger floral rose quality to it. KAYALI Vanilla Royale does have rose in it, but it's much more tame. It's not a rose fragrance. This really is a rose fragrance, a rose vanilla oud fragrance. They are both very sweet. I would say Shaghaf Oud is maybe a little bit sweeter actually. And while I would say Shaghaf Oud is a tad less complex, and while it doesn't have the leather or the patchouli in it, it does have a saffron note in it, which has a leathery undertone to it and a subtle earthiness to it as well. Shaghaf Oud also has a metallic tinge to it, and it's overall a bit creamier of a fragrance, even a little bit lactonic. I would say it's a little bit stronger as well, even stronger than Vanilla Royale, and Vanilla Royale was quite strong to begin with. This is even stronger, though I would say overall Vanilla Royale is a smoother fragrance overall. So what these two fragrances do share, however, is that very stark juxtaposition of a dark, grounded woodiness and oud juxtaposed with a very, very sweet vanilla accord. And they are also polarizing in a similar way. Both of these fragrances, people seem to either love them or hate them for similar reasons. A lot of people find Shaghaf Oud to be too strong, too overpowering, too harsh, even too smoky, while others find it incredibly sexy and alluring. I personally find it to be a very rich, enveloping, sweet and sexy fragrance now, but I did find it a bit overpowering when I tried this initially a couple of years ago, when I wasn't used to oud and stronger Middle Eastern fragrances. Which leads me to my conclusion with Vanilla Royale by, I was going to say by Sugared Patchouli. Vanilla Royale, Sugared Patchouli 64 by KAYALI. I found this perfume interesting enough in its development to appreciate the opening. And I will say I was quite surprised by how much I did like this fragrance. So like I said, I was quite ambivalent about this release when it came out. I was curious, but I wasn't kind of like, wow, I need this. I got a travel spray. First of all, I didn't get a full bottle. I was quite apprehensive about the fragrance with all the leather and the oud, and I'm not a huge leather oud fan to begin with, but I actually find it quite nice, and I am going to enjoy wearing this, especially this time of year during the Christmas holiday season, the cold weather. I think it's perfect for that. So I will use this travel spray up. I'm not sure yet whether I'm going to get a bigger bottle, just because this is not my go-to kind of fragrance, but it is nice. I do like it. I do think it needs to be tested, or if you're not sure about everything I mentioned, definitely only get a travel size. For a nose that is accustomed to mainstream designer fragrances, this might be too much, especially in the opening. It might be too challenging. For those who enjoy those deeper, woodier fragrances, who are also acquainted with and familiar with Middle Eastern fragrances and found KAYALI Vanilla 28 to be too basic or too mundane or too simple of a fragrance for them with not enough oomph or depth. So these are people who actually didn't like Vanilla 28, maybe didn't see the hype in Vanilla 28. So not people who wanted a more intense Vanilla 28, people who just all around maybe dismissed Vanilla 28. This might be more suitable for you, for those people. And that said about how, you know, a little bit more intense this fragrance is, I do think it still has that mass appealing Vanilla 28 DNA in this fragrance that is present in a lot of the KAYALI fragrances. And I would consider the oud in here to be quite tame and smooth, except apart, like I said, from that initial opening. After that, it really does mellow out and mellow down. And it's just, in my opinion, compared to a lot of other oud fragrances, the oud in here is quite smooth and tamed by the layers of sweet vanilla over top. And overall, this is a very sweet, boozy, warm, spicy, woody, interesting, complex vanilla, a little bit creamy. That vanilla is definitely present. The patchouli for me is not a big deal. It's just adding a little bit of greenness, a little bit of earthiness to the fragrance in the base, but it's not overwhelming to me. I still think that this is a very sweet fragrance, a sweet vanilla fragrance. So now let me know, do you like this fragrance? Do you hate this fragrance? Do you love this fragrance? I want to know. Let me know down below. I know this is a very polarizing fragrance and we are all allowed to have our own opinion about it. We all smell something slightly different. We all appreciate different notes. I actually think this was a great release by KAYALI because it was a little different from their other fragrances, and some people actually who maybe dismissed KAYALI previously will actually maybe find something they love in this fragrance. And of course, those who don't like this release and were looking for something else, they already love the other KAYALI fragrances. So this is a great addition, I think, to the KAYALI line. Please leave this video a thumbs up and a like if you enjoyed it or it was useful to you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell if you would like to see some more videos from me in the future. Thank you for watching, you guys, and until we see each other again, take care of yourself. I'll see you very soon. Bye.